Lloyd Vance joining us, kind enough to join us on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Does a great job covering the NFL as well. Pro Football Writers Association does a good job contributing editor and writer as well for the NFL Network as we talk a little post-draft, if you will. The dust is settled. How you been, pal?
Doing great, Q, and it was an exciting couple days there.
Yeah, it was. I mean, we knew it was going to be somewhat of a active and wild NFL draft, and you know, were you as shocked as many that the Browns decide to go Mayfield at number 1 as opposed to, say, Sam Darnold, who slips to the Jets at number 3?
Well, Q, you know, as always, nothing surprised you with the Browns, but to me, the overall best quarterback obviously was Sam Darnold, and that's a glaring need for a team that has only won one game the last 2 seasons, and you know, I guess they figured Baker Mayfield was their guy, and they didn't want to take the chance, wait and get him at 4. You know, we'll see if he's able to fit into the National Football League. I still wonder if he's going to find his passing late kind of block because of his height and his arm strength, and there's a lot of questions around him. But I thought overall the Browns did a nice job. They had many picks, and they seemed to fill a lot of needs at the draft.
There was a report that Baker Mayfield's agent, Jack Mills, came out and I guess made a couple of comments that New England might have been one of the teams that were considering trading up to number 2 overall, which means they would have traded with the Giants. I mean, is that much to do about nothing? I mean, it's funny because then are you going to kill New England for taking them? Because New England's always the genius, and it seems like people are only killing the Browns for taking them, and well, number 1, they're the Brown. I mean, do you think there's validity in that comment that maybe New England was looking to draft a quarterback?
There was a lot of talk around New England trying to get a quarterback. I just don't know if they were going to be able to get that high, getting to the second pick of the draft. You know, many times when you move up that high, as the Eagles had to do, you have to mortgage your future first-rounders, and I just don't know if Belichick will be able to do that. And also the Giants on the other side of the board, everyone I talk to that covers the team around them, they want to see Saquon Barkley. That was their guy. They targeted him. To me, he was the best player in the draft, and I really like that pick for them. Great fit for him. And Gettleman's gone around really rebuilding that team in the right way.
Yeah, he most certainly has. You look at these quarterbacks that have gone out of the guys, you know, the notable guys, and we'll get to the Ravens and Lamar Jackson in a second. Who do you think is who's in the right scheme, the right fit, the right system? Like, what quarterback landed in the perfect spot?
Well, I do like Darnold going to the Jets. I think he'll be able to handle the big market there coming from L.A. and USC. A guy that's very polished, been around the big-time college game for quite a while. So I think he'll fit real well there. Todd Bowles and his staff are excited to get him, got good arm strength. Hopefully they'll get some more targets for him to throw through to. But also I know Josh Rosen was not too happy about going to 10th pick, but I thought he's in a very good spot with the Arizona Cardinals. We know Sam Bradford is hurt quite often, and excuse me, that he's going to probably get his opportunities. He's going to be able to throw the football indoors to a dome, Larry Fitzgerald, and a lot of great receivers out there.
I know, again, it's always interesting how these reports start to surface, but the Browns just didn't like something they might have just heard or seen when it comes to Rosen, and at the end of the day, they felt after meeting with Mayfield that he's got all these tangibles. Now, with all that being said, you look at a guy like Josh Allen, that had to deal with some of the tweet nonsense prior to the draft. He goes to Buffalo at 7. Is that a good fit in your eyes for him? And if so, do you think he's going to start right away?
I think that's a very good fit for them. And Sean McDermott will be able to deal with that, and Brandon Beane, the general manager. They've already talked to the young man, and he's very contrite, and he's moving forward. So I think he'll come in there and be able to step right in. I know McCarron, they did sign him, but McCarron's always been kind of a backup quarterback type to me, even when he was at Alabama doing so well. Only started 2 games in the National Football League. So I think Josh Allen's going to get every opportunity to start there. And that's a young team rebuilding, and why not just start with a young quarterback? It may not be the first couple weeks of the season, but I think by week 6 he'll definitely be in there.
It does appear that Jason Witten's retirement or his announcement is going to stick. I just think ESPN's throwing way too much money at him. With that being said, we were looking at some of the numbers yesterday, And listen, he's arguably top 10 Hall of Fame tight end, 7, 8, however you want to throw him, lump him in there. He's going to the Hall of Fame. But, man, they are really losing a leader and a safety valve, because a lot of times throughout the course of Tony Romo's career and even Prescott early on, when they needed that third and short, when they needed to move the chains, he was that safety valve. How big of a loss will this be for that offense?
Well, I think the veteran leadership is the biggest thing with Jason Witten at this point in his career. Obviously, he was not going to break the ball down the field as he did when he was a lot younger, but his locker room presence and leading that team is huge. And Dak Prescott, as you were saying, leaned on him a lot in key situations, and obviously Tony Romo in the past. But, that's a lot of money for Witten to pass up, and he's getting a little older, and he was always very good in front of the microphone. I remember interviewing him after several Eagles Cowboys games, and the guy really has good presence about him. So we'll see if he's able to translate to television as Romo has. But the thing is with the Cowboys, they did get Dalton Schultz coming from Stanford to kind of replace him. We'll see if he's the right guy. They also do have Swain, who's a former basketball player there as well.
What do you think is going to happen with Des Bryant here? I know Romo's come out and defended his locker room presence. I know a lot of people think he's too much of a distraction, and obviously the numbers have gone down. There was talk that since the Giants released Brandon Marshall, maybe they should make a move for Des Bryant. But again, you got to look at age, production. You got to look at the money that they have, or the money the receiver might command. I mean, where do you think it's all said and done? Where would be, or where are some landing spots for Des Bryant?
Well, Des Bryant right now, I think he's overinflated his value a little bit. Let's face it. We know the Ravens came in with an offer to him, but Des Bryant really wants a larger one-year contract, probably over the $12 million range, and I just don't know at this stage of his career if he's worth that. Solid guy that can still get open, but he's going to need help from other receivers on his team. Can't be a number one. So the Ravens obviously will be in play, and he's probably going to shop his services around the National Football League, but right now you have a lot of undrafted free agent signings. And all these guys coming together with a team. Right now the roster is around 90 or so, and they're going to have a lot of bodies in there. So he may have to wait until training camp to get a look. But I definitely would think if he starts looking around that you could see the Ravens, maybe the Packers seem to be looking for somebody to replace Jordy Nelson. Who knows? Maybe even the Raiders, John Gruden's bringing some guys in to take looks at. So definitely Des Bryant is going to get an opportunity, but it may be at a veteran minimum.
Let's stick in the NFC East with the Eagles as we close it out. They draft a tight end. Obviously, they take a potential tight end away from the Dallas Cowboys. They draft cornerback Maddox. I think is going to be a player in Pittsburgh, probably replaces a guy like Patrick Robinson. You go pass rusher, you can never have enough of those. They go tackle as well with Pryor, and then, of course, the big Aussie. What did you make overall some of the moves and some of the draft selections by the Philadelphia Eagles?
Yeah, the Eagles, they didn't have a lot of picks, and obviously they were trying to fill holes, and I think they did a pretty good job. Dallas Goedert actually is coming over, jump in front of Dallas to make everybody happy, because that was the guy that they had targeted to get. Yep. And I think he's going to be a replacement for Selleck, so I think he'll be able to come in there and do some good work. I want to see what Avonte Maddox brings, a guy that had a pretty good career at Pitt. We'll see if he overall could cover corner, because we know that they need that, the amount of yards they gave up in the Super Bowl. And then Jordan Mailata, we're going to see what kind of athlete he is. I know they had Alejandro Villanueva in there at one time from Army, and he was a guy that they didn't know where to put him, was on the practice squad a couple of years, and then he became a player for the Steelers, yep, starting right tackle. Yep. So they may try to do the same thing with Jordan and maybe put him on the outside. I know at first they're going to try him as a lineman, but he's a pretty good athlete considering his size. So
well, I was saying yesterday, Lloyd, that, to me, he's got the makings of potentially a tackle eligible, right? Those rugby guys, they always catch the ball at the highest point. I think of what the Patriots used to do with Mike Rabel back in the day. He's a big kid, right? And he's got good hands.
Yeah, he's a good athletic kid, and we've seen that with a couple of other guys like Brian O'Neill, who just went to the Pittsburgh from the University of Pittsburgh, that went to the Vikings. He's a guy that used to be a tight end, and then they made him a third tackle. So maybe you could bring him in the heavy package and then kind of flare him out. So I know what they're going to do probably in minicamp is bring him in to see what he knows about football. He's going to be learning the game, let's face it. it's very new to a lot of these guys, and they didn't grow up with it. So they're going to see how close he is in terms of football acumen. But pretty good athlete, and hopefully they didn't get him on his field in training camp.
The Eagles also exercised this fifth-year option on Nelson Aguilar's contract Monday, so he'll be under contract through 2019. I never thought I'd say it. He's going to remain with the Eagles for another season. And listen, he got off to a very slow start in his career, but really hit his stride last season. Close to 800 yards, 8 touchdowns, played with a lot more confidence. So it's a solid move because, again, it's solidifying the wide receiver position. Now, what about the fact that they bring back Darren Sproles? To me, is this more of a veteran guy? He's not an every down back, but you have that veteran locker room guy. You have a guy that can also catch the ball in the backfield a little bit. But I'm also thinking special teams as well if need be.
Definitely. Darren Sproles is a leader and a multi-purpose type of guy, and he's one of the favorites of the organization. They're going to see if he has anything left after injury, and he didn't want to come, leave not on his own terms. So he wants an opportunity, and I think he'll get a chance. They do have an opening because one of their running backs left via free agency. So they're going to give him a chance. Veteran-laden team here. That's why they bring in a lot of guys via the draft. But the Eagles seem pretty solid, and they have a lot of their holes filled after free agency. So it should be a fun time in this division with Dallas getting healthier, and I thought the Giants did real well.
And again, a couple minutes with Lloyd Vance. Good follow on Twitter, at Lloyd Vance, covers the NFL, the Eagles, PFW Writers Association as well, NFL Network contributor. Join us on the Boardwalk Kind of Hotline. Before I let you get out of here, the Ravens making the trade and then drafting Lamar Jackson. I mean, to me, this is a clear indicator. Shots have been fired. Listen, Joe, we got you for one more year under contract. After that, we might be looking to go in another direction. Plus, they bring in a veteran in RG3. But to me, Jackson, I thought any team that drafted this kid was going to have a potential sleeper. It seems as though that's who Ozzie Newsome wanted, right? That's the way he ends his career as far as personnel evaluator with the Baltimore Ravens GM. And to me, I don't know how much of a gamble he took, but I actually like the pick, and I think this kid's going to be a player, and I think it puts a lot more pressure on Flacco going into the season.
Yeah, Q, and I'm not big on grade draft, but I thought Ozzie Newsome and his staff, as usual, Eric DeCastro, the rest of them, did a great job in terms of just filling their roster. They've had a couple down years with this organization, especially after they won a Super Bowl. Gave Flacco that huge contract, and as you've been saying, he's kind of been resting on his laurels. So now bringing in Lamar Jackson, a guy who's young, he's hungry, and let's face it, right now he's a little raw in his development as quarterback, but I think he can come in there. Maybe they'll put a package in. Morningwig is there, and I remember when Morningwig had Michael Vick, and he'd bring him in for a couple package plays here and there when McNabb was still with the Eagles. So it's going to be an exciting time for Baltimore, and overall, I just thought they did a good job. When Hayden Hurst, the tight end, they got another solid guy. So they did a real nice job, and it was also nice to see Orlando Brown, Zeus' son, is taken by them as well, a massive tackle.
Yep, absolutely. That's a good story in its own right. All right, my friend, always good stuff. Appreciate you jumping on board a little bit on a Tuesday. We will talk next week. Always appreciate the insight.
All right, thanks for having me on.
All right, you got it. Lloyd Vance again joining us on the Boardwalk on the Hotline.